My name is Shai. The first talk of the day is going to be called my open source journey from noob to maintainer to owner. Quick intro, I work as a staff iOS engineer here at Monday. Do a lot of open source work, as the title of the talk might suggest. And generally like to speak in a lot of conferences. It's like a huge fun thing that I like to do. I'm also a huge fan of hackathons and even had the pleasure to won a few of them. Aside from that, I'm also a published author. These are some of the books that I've had the pleasure to work on, either write or edit or do technical editing on. Those are around the iOS world, which is like my, my hobby and job, luckily. So I guess what's the purpose of this talk today? I kind of want to sell you on the idea that while open source is sort of considered a selfless deed, it has like a very strong value, both personally and professionally, for your growth. And I'll kind of try to do that by sharing my own story with you and how I got into it. So how it all started, I kind of got into computers, grew up in Ashkelon, and relatively low-income family. And I got my first computer as a handoff from a cousin after I found Afikoman on Passover. So that was really fun. And I kind of dug deep into programming relatively early, I guess 10-ish, if you could call that programming back then, HTML2, I guess, PHP 3, all the good stuff, and spent most of my teenage years on my IBM XT. Gali's gonna love this next slide. So yeah, 13-year-old, cute, chubby, not too many friends, and way too much free time. I guess I just wanted to kind of find my place in the world, kind of try to belong somewhere, and software was like a good place to start. So then I guess, as I mentioned, I did a lot of backend and web development. So I was working for this smaller startup, and I've been doing backend for about 10 years then, and we had this contracting company that did our iOS mobile app, and they basically went bankrupt. And my boss came to me with a CD, if you know and remember what a CD is, and told me, congrats, you're now an iOS developer. And I had no idea what it means, but I said, OK. And that's kind of how it started. There was no knowledge on what it is, what it means. It was back in 2011. No one was building iOS apps, definitely not in Israel, or not too many. Was iOS 4. There was only one course on a torrent, of course, because we're Israelis. So I kind of got into it. So it was 2011. The language for iOS was basically Objective-C. To the non-technical people, it is not the greatest language. It's very terrible. It's like a known fun fact that they made the most amazing phone, and you have to build with it with the least amazing language, which is luckily not the case anymore because we have Swift now. And yeah, getting started with it after 10 years of backend was constantly thinking, why doesn't it work? Why doesn't it work? Oh, shit, that's why. And I don't know if I can swear on camera if you're seeing this, but I'll do it anyway. So yeah, I think it was very frustrating, but then first time I kind of saw someone touching the screen and it did the thing I programmed it to do, I immediately fell in love with iOS, was still doing a lot of backend, but I was totally hooked on this iOS ecosystem, I think. And early on, there were a lot of great open source projects that I used, but I had no idea what open source means. I didn't know what any of these projects are, where they come from. CocoaPods, AF Networking, these are more in the iOS world, obviously. But I kind of just used them. I took them for granted. I didn't realize the story behind them or where they even came from. And then I, over time, discovered that there are names and companies behind each of these projects. These names probably don't mean anything to you, Matt Thompson or Tathirox. They're like big celebs in the mobile world, basically. And I just realized that these projects were built and maintained for free on the spare time of these real people. Back then, I think it was way less commercial than it is today. It was really individual people. And those people were basically my heroes. I kind of looked up to them, and I wanted to be part of that group, basically. So I started contributing small bug fixes in additions to like all of these online projects, and I was just excited seeing people using my stuff. It was weird. I wrote code, I contributed, all of a sudden it's in this app in the App Store that I didn't develop. Just someone else consumed my code. It was great. all of a sudden I kind of started making my own small project that solved some problems in iOS, and one of them got like 400 stars, which I was like immediately hooked. It was like getting mini celeb status back then. So really just dug right into open source. And fast forward to 2016, which was many years after, I was always kind of invested in looking for the latest and greatest like technologies, architectures, nerding about them and enjoying them. And back then on iOS, the big hype was functional reactive programming. And specifically reactive extensions or RX Swift, which is the Swift variation of it. So it was kind of, it felt again like being back to the beginning of like the Objective-C times. Just had to learn everything from scratch. It was huge, overwhelming, but also like that was a pretty exciting thing in itself because you kind of learn what you can about iOS. And I tried to just like ask very stupid questions because I didn't know anything, and learned very, very slowly. And after a few months, I said, okay, now I kind of start to understand the thing. Let's start contributing stuff back. And my first commit was just like a README update, something very, very silly and not very meaningful. Even though it's probably meaningful to someone, but in the grander scheme of things, this didn't go into any code base. But I think it kind of helped me build the confidence and learn from other developers that I was working on this project, like Krunoslav Zar, who initially started this project many, like I guess in 2011 or 12. So by, I guess, the period of like 2 years, I wasn't only like actively contributing to it, but I was like the other top contributor aside for the project owner at the time. So I really felt like not only am I contributing code there, I would be interested in answering the community, growing the community, being a real advocate for it because I believed in it. And all of a sudden, from this huge noob that didn't know how to write any RX, it dawned on me that I'm like the top contributor there, and now I get asked all these questions, and now I'm a knowledge source. So I just kept pushing there and kept working harder to bring more adoption. So all of these tiny contributions, all these tiny pieces of code ended up being, driving Uber and Lyft, and even us here at Money.com before I joined. So it was very, very cool to see that happening from that perspective. In 2018, Kruno moved to work for Google, and he was unable to work on RX anymore, and he officially, after 2 years of me helping him, decided we could to pass the torch. And since then, which has been like about 7 years, I've been the sole maintainer of it and the owner of it, which has been like a huge honor, privilege, and also a burden, like any open source project. But it's been great overall. And in 2021, I've been invited to Reactive Extensions Organization, which is like the official organization that hosts all of the implementations. And that was kind of like a big moment and stamp of, I always recall back then like not knowing even how to write a single line using this framework, and now being extremely like sort of in the leadership of it. So it was very, very exciting. So I guess, how's it been from the non-code perspective? I think that ramping up and learning how to work in a group of hundreds of developers, basically, really taught me about what it means to have full ownership. You're not just developing code. You're not just trying to fix a bug. You kind of own it. It's like a tiny business. You try to think of the roadmap of it. You try to think where should it go, what's the vision, and it kind of, and you need to like have a clear vision for it because there are hundreds of people that want you to drive them and lead them in a sense. So it really kind of helped me build those qualities in me for my actual workplaces and other real projects that I worked on commercially. I think from there things really exploded. As I mentioned before, I like worked on books, and in an RX book that was really successful, and I had the privilege to kind of talk in all of these conferences about RX. And this is like my favorite part. All of these open source heroes and some of the contributors that I only knew from GitHub and the online world, I got the chance to meet them in person and connect the GitHub handle to their faces, which was incredible. Like you only see the chat and you only see the @ handle, and all of a sudden there are faces attached to them. It was absolutely crazy. And yeah, you sit with those people and just have a coffee with them and dinner, and you're like, that's absolutely like mind-blowing. It blew my mind back then. It blows my mind every time I get the opportunity. Were they all dreams and sugar? Obviously no. Like anything in life, I think while I would never be the same person without having open source in my life in the community, I definitely feel like it gave me way more than I gave it. But it's not very, very easy. There are like countless invisible hours to do the work and get other people motivated to do the work with you. And you can very easily feel burned out by overworking. You have your day job, you have your open source job basically, and you're kind of juggling two jobs. And there's a lot of feeling of being unappreciated, because remember when I said that I just consumed these things without thinking who's behind them? So that's what people are doing everywhere. They would just download RX, oh, this is working, this project is shit. And you're like they pay you money for it. That's kind of how they feel. They don't understand like how many hours of free time we put into it. So that's why I said being motivated by ungrateful consumers. And also sometimes if you don't have like co-lead in your project, that's also hard, because you have to make a lot of the decisions yourself, and you have to take all of these people and again put them under sort of a shared vision and push them forward in a way that helps them grow so they don't get burned out as well. And I like this XKCD comics that kind of says all modern digital infrastructure, and then this tiny block is a project some random person in Nebraska has been thanklessly maintaining since 2003. I think that just kind of talks about the story of open source. That's why I love it. I use it for so many talks. It's like, you have huge projects. I guess there's like a security thing to it as well, right? There was this shift left incident and all of these tiny projects that are part of huge projects in huge companies, and that's also sometimes used for malicious intents. So, and I think a lot of these malicious projects are from maintainers being burned out and kind of taking a wrong twist. But eventually, I think that even though sometimes you have like a company like Uber that's earning billions of dollars, they would use this tiny brick that I worked on and this other tiny brick that someone else worked on. And it's pretty crazy to think about it this way. And I think that's why a lot of these companies are also bringing it back, because they understand it's a circle of life in a sense, and you need to give back what you take. So I guess what's my point here? I guess building your personal brand technically and personally is very helpful if you're doing good. Like, you don't have to fake gigantic LinkedIn posts if you just have something that you believe in, that you are doing, that you want to share. Sorry, Ash, don't hate me. That you really think you're doing good and you're giving to the community. And even selfishly, like the growth there is like nothing else I've ever experienced, not even in a workplace. You probably know this feeling that you start a new workplace and all of a sudden you learn all of these things that Monday is doing or Get is doing or whatever company you worked for. So contributing to open source is like working for 10 different companies at a time. Just every project you work for is a different code base, it's different people, different standards. So you get to learn all of these different ways of solving problems and all of these different ways to talk to other people, work with them together, build a team, even though you don't know each other. So it's really priceless. Again, like I said before, I don't think you can gain this knowledge or personal growth in many other ways. So yeah, my involvement in open source benefits the community. It's like selfless, but it also benefits me and the companies I work for, and definitely my coworkers and community. So definitely not selfless, and I urge you to do the same for your projects that you believe in and want to support, especially if these are projects that you use in your day-to-day with your companies. Sometimes this tiny fix that you did for yourself can solve a problem for hundreds of people, even though it seems super silly to you. So yeah, go out and do some good, and thank you. That's it for today. Wait, yeah. Are there any questions?
I have one actually.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people that I know started contributing to open source project. It usually started by, like you said, a README fix or something like this. And I was wondering if you have a tip for the audience, because at some point you will probably get blocked by some really hard bug. And it's not like you're working in a company when you have colleagues to talk to them. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you have like Discord servers or WhatsApp communities, but did you ever think to yourself, oh man, I can't do this because I cannot solve this bug, what do I do now?
It's a really great question. I'm going to repeat it for the recording. So you asked that a lot of contributors start off with doing README fixes and very small things, and then when you want to get to the big stuff, sometimes it's like overwhelming. You don't even know where to start. You don't have the right people to talk to, and what would be a good tip around that? I think first of all, if you're contributing to something you work in with your day-to-day, that's already like a big, like a great situation. Like if I work with React and I found a bug in React and I want to fix it, then I have all the motivation and all the reasoning to do that. If I want to contribute randomly to a project that's just like very successful, but I don't have any connection with it, it's going to be harder because I need to better understand the internals. I think that a good way to start, many of these projects would have a label called Good First Issue, which maintainers use to mark kind of like entry point bugs. And that's like a way to grow and learn how the system works before you get into the big ones. And yeah, like you mentioned, our Discord channels and stuff like that. Like we had a Slack back then and online communities. And we also had like community town hall, which was basically a Zoom for anyone who wanted to join and just chat together and hang out. That was really helpful as well. I don't think there's like a good single solution here. But yeah, you got to understand, at least on a basic level, the code you're fixing. So I think it's like ground level, README, tiny bug, bigger bug, big feature, really big feature, then maybe you own a project. If you're unlucky enough, I'm just joking. Any other questions? Still here, yeah?
Did you talk about work-life balance?
She asked if I heard about work-life balance.
Look at the username.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about work-life balance a bit differently. They stopped working, but let's see. I know, yeah. I think about work-life balance a bit differently than people. I think work-life balance is decide when you work and when you don't. Like for me, work-life balance that doesn't mean that I need to drop the pen at 5. It means I can go out and take my son at 3 p.m. and then keep working at 6 or 7 if I want to. But yeah, this is like, it is a hobby. Like, right, open source is eventually a hobby. I like doing it most of the time. Sometimes I really, really hate it. But it can be frustrating. But yeah, there are expectations. I think it's to not get burned out, you have to do more things that are not code. That's really helpful as well. And yeah, if the project you're working on is a bit successful, then it's also helpful because you get recognition from the community. Or yeah, even before I came to work for Monday, I was consulting to the first iOS developer here how to use it and how to build with it for Monday. So it was like, I think they hear me well enough, even though they think, so it's fine. So yeah, that's kind of it. I think balance is good, but it's a different balance for everyone, right? Yeah.
So, like, if I connected to like the purpose of the meetup in total, like, how would you see this like path in your life helps you come to Monday or in your job at Monday, or how is it a part of your daily job on Monday?
So your question is like connecting to the purpose of this meetup, basically, like how does this journey help me when I come to Monday or any other daily job? I think first of all, it opens a lot of doors. If you are known for your craft, if you are known for the things you do, there are less interviews sometimes, but also you go into the door with more confidence, and I think there is also like a better mutual understanding that you're going to give value to each other. It doesn't mean it's always going to be a match. It doesn't mean it's like a guaranteed entry, but it definitely means you can come with confidence that you know how to solve their problem because you solved 100 different projects before that. So yeah, it's like doing a bunch of fake jobs and fake interviews before going to a big interview. And yeah, I mean, when I used to work at a startup and then an American company, and then I went to Get Taxi, and going to that job, it was just like one of the leads there who's like a good friend of mine. To this day, we were just nerding out together about RX. And then when I left, it was natural that I would go there. I didn't even interview, I just joined him. And then when I stopped working for Get, I was still nerding out with Ariel, who works here, about RX. And it was just natural that I did interview. I'm just here, at least. It was natural that I would join him. Like one thing led to another. And all of these opportunities, didn't come for free, but it definitely helps pave the way. Cool. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.